everyone. You want to say hi, Drew?
No. Hi.
Hi. Say hi, Drew. Hi, Drew.
Bye.
Bye, Drew. Yeah, that would be nice, wouldn't it? The size of an apple in Wellville. Love it, baby. Golden Delicious, of course. Good day, everyone. I hope you're enjoying these videos. I'm trying to get them out to you, trying to sneak the time in to get them done, because there's so many people out there in trouble. It's just amazing, and I'm just so proud of each and every one of you for your taking on this this bull, if you will, and riding it all the way to Wellville. Some of you've just done incredible. The education that you're learning, working on yourselves and your families and friends and others, it's just incredible, and I appreciate each and every one of you. And it is a journey through, and it isn't just a physical journey. As you're beginning to see, most of you are seeing your higher selves beaming. You're seeing emotional hidden issues coming out, thoughts being some disturbing and some not, being broken apart. So this is a process, and it's hard to explain to the general public that detoxification is so much more and so much deeper than what the average person even thinks it to be, because it's right into your essence, and it begins to clean that essence, whether it's physical, emotional, or mental, or ego. Because, and that's the thing, the ego. You can get your ego slapped around. Mine's been slapped around a lot. So you're just like, okay, let all that go, because it just doesn't matter anymore. What matters is you and your joy and your happiness and feeling good. You shouldn't even know you have a physical body. And as you get up there and you get these acids that gnarl and burn you, and you get these acids out of there, your body feels lighter, like a light body, more energetic, because you're consuming energy at its highest level on the planet. You can't get higher nutrition or energy than fruits and berries. These guys is where it's at, and they make you feel the same way. So you always strive to do your best. There's always the balance. There's the cooked food syndrome, or the addiction of cooked foods, of course. And then, of course, when you start detoxifying, I was talking to a homeopathic physician from Romania. She's such a beautiful soul, a great healer woman. And we were talking about how, and I've learned this through so many years, and we talked about this one guy that had stomach cancer, and I went over to his house. He wasn't getting better. I went over to his house, and there was, like 4 or 5 families living in the house. They were frying chicken and fish, and the grease smell permeated even the air way out on the street. And I've always said, you breathe it, you eat it. And we're also talking about that you chew it and spit it out. There's all kinds of things when you're trying to do well, and yet you have all these chemical residues from the foods that you've eaten in the past come out, and you start craving something that you had years ago, or something you really liked, and these are just the toxins from these foods that come out of you. And you start going, well, why am I, so all these things can happen to you on the road to Wellville. You start seeing all kinds of things coming out, and emotions coming out, and things like this. So really, if you can ride this, the end of the journey is incredible, And again, I'm not sure where that end is. I was just reading one here before. It was stuck to the bottom. I was reading. It said, talk to us about how do you get well. And that's all I've been doing. So I want to talk about Tiger. I tell you, this is why I am so adamant, but also passionate the way I am about the kids, about the teenagers, 20-year-olds. My God, you guys have a road to hoe, and it's thanks to man's ego and just the academic mind in a way. I'm not knocking education when I say this, but it's important to keep that in balance with our spiritualities. because you're just seeing what too much education can bring, and too much education brings unconsciousness, sometimes stupidity, because what are we getting educated on? Those that think a certain way, those that have theories, those that walk before us. How many people walk their own path, find their own information out by observation? So, when we get to the mind, it's a totally conditioned instrument. Anytime you have to read any books by J. Krishnamurti, do that. He'll bring that out to you really vividly, the conditioned state called the mind, This young man, what a sweet young man. Someone said he was in Indonesia. He's already had a kidney removed. He's already had part of his colon or intestinal area removed. And I was reading the labs they sent me. And this poor young lad, now this is 3 years old, guys. And that's why I'm here to tell you how in trouble. So I'm reading from the hospital here. And his primary diagnosis was a malignant tumor in the cortex of his adrenal gland. I didn't say which one. And of course, there we go. There's the kidney adrenal right here. When the kidneys don't filter, the next tissue right to it is the adrenal. So you start to see adrenal cysts and tumors. Then you start to see the prostate or ovaries, then the uterus. And you start to see the hips and the knees and the elbows, those places you're overworking or you're working a lot and creating a lot of acids that you're not eliminating. But his secondary diagnosis is malignant neoplasm of the lung, malignant neoplasm of the liver, malignant neoplasm of other unspecified digestive organs. He has a postoperative intestinal obstruction, blah, 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 blah. So, I think there's some YouTubers helping this child, and I tell you, this is a case where you put this child on fruits and berries and melons, period, now, not yesterday. Not waiting, doesn't matter if he's filtering or not. Obviously, he's not filtering on the side they removed the kidneys and adrenals. But, and I take it because there is liver and lung that he's probably lost his right kidney and his right adrenal gland, although there's no specification to this from this hospital report. And it shows you this is a systemic problem. And any smart medical doctor should see this because it shows you that this is interstitial. It shows you that this is the lymph system. It shows you that when the kidneys aren't filtering, they're not filtering the liver, the lungs, the brain, or anywhere else. This poor young lad will start popping tumors out all over the place. He already is. At 3 years old. And it just brings in the genetic awareness or lack thereof of cells that are involved in the eliminative process of cellular waste. So when you get a lad like this, you really have to get after him. I have to say, lucky for the parents, they sent him home to die. And I'll have to say that that's better than America. I think this is Indonesia, because in America, they would keep giving this child chemo until he did die. That's what we would do because it makes money. As regurgitating as that might sound, that's what we would do, except for the last few days. And at least these docs said, there's nothing we can do. We tried surgery. They didn't do chemo because what are you going to do? So their docs are smarter over there. They did what they could do. When they learn what they can do, up and above that, that's the difference between medical doctors in different countries. I'm sure these Indonesian medical doctors would take right off and detoxify this young lad because they're more humanitarians. I was being hired on at a hospital, and I was in orientation with a medical doctor he was from the Middle East. I can't remember the country, to be honest with you. I don't think it was Iran. I think it was Lebanon, but I just can't remember. And we were talking, and he looked at me and he said, you medical doctors. I said, "Ooh, I'm not a medical doctor. I'm a naturopath." He said, "Well, the medical doctors in this country are capitalists." He said, "My country, we're humanitarians." He said, "I'll take a chicken for helping somebody. Here, it's just like a totally different beast." And I said, as a naturopath, I'm where you're at, because we've never been a wealthy group. We will take a chicken, or maybe not a chicken, but we'll take an apple to help someone. And that's the point, because we are humanitarians. And that's the point of all you healers out there. So around the world, medical thinking is different. And I think with an awareness a little more about how the kidneys are involved in the elimination of cellular waste, and that they're the key components of the lymphatic system, I think that awareness in some of these countries will help them to get deeper into children like this. That hopefully we can get Tiger and save him. I know that there's help out there, and we've already been in contact with them, but I wanted to bring this to your attention because this is exactly what the world is, and that's what I'm saying to you all around the world. Get your kids detoxed no matter whether you think there's a problem or not. In today's world, kidney and adrenals, and this just shows you, this isn't American, this is Indonesian, this is worldwide. We're having these problems, from Romania to Turkey to everywhere. And we need to understand how we can turn this around and save these children and give them a life. So we're working on this, young man. We'll see. And when you have a case with the children, forget vegetables, vegetable juices. Forget that. Throw that in the trash. This young man's got to go on grape fast. All kinds of berries or fruits will be fine. He's in a perfect place because he's in where fresh fruits abound. And high quality foods, by the way. So he's in a place where he has access to these things, which is another plus for this young lad. So we'll see what happens, and I'll keep you posted about his journey here. But just sad cases out there, you know, it yanks at your heart. And we get these in here every day, sometimes 2 or 3 a day. And it just shows you the tremendous issues that face us. That's why I appreciate any of you that take on the role of being healers out there. It's simple. You don't have to have a Harvard education. And for those Harvard grads, no offense, but keep it simple. And you can use what you know in a plus way, because now it's all about the folk and getting people well. And you don't need a big diploma on the wall to do that, and people have to get with that. You don't necessarily go to a person that has a big diploma on the wall, because many people don't survive those visits. You know, remember last year over 1 million people killed allopathically. If you like that number, then, you know, but it's horrid. You know, I was watching Kathy and what's his name this morning before I come to work, and they had a guy on there that survived cancer for 8 years. And everybody's cheering and clapping, and I'm thinking to myself, there's one. And when you take a look at that, if you had 10,000 people, he's probably less than a handful that survived for 8 years of 10,000 people. That's why everybody's going, my God, you made it? You made it? That's disgusting, because if we get you early and you learn detoxification and what causes this, there'd be 9,500 out of 10,000 people making it. There'd be 500 people that couldn't do the program or something, or it was their time to go. Because I have an old saying, if you do everything right, you start getting on these high levels of fruits and berries and melons, and you're detoxifying and you're using the herbs, then it's just a matter of time. Or it's your time. And if it's your time, you're on a great journey of freedom. And you get to get rid of this chemical body. Some might get another one. But grab your consciousness, grab your spirituality, get deep into who you are, spend time alone. So the fear of aloneness doesn't overwhelm you. Because there's a difference between loneliness and aloneness. And the aloneness state is an all-inclusive state where all life is. Because everything, if you hadn't noticed, is an individual. And behind that individual is the aloneness of all things. Those times where you realize that only you exist. And that's where you start to tap into who you are. Okay, so this is from Daniel. More questions, page 2. I only have page 1. Sorry, man. I don't know where all that is. But my desk is a mess, as always. Hello from Calgary, Alberta. Hey, young man. I'm a 24-year-old young man. Thank you for the vids. Thank you for watching them. Thank you a lot, man. Could you please speak about the psychosis and how to heal it? Well, you remember a couple of things here now. Remember the endocrine glands. They are to the Hindus the chakras, but they are to your physical body, your interconnecting link to the mind and to the emotions. Remember, we had the discussion here in the last video too, where allopathy and sometimes physical scientists can't get out of their own way. They become so physical and intellectual. And it's like that guy in the wheelchair. I never can remember his name, who is an astronomer and looks at the universe, and he's just crippled. He could uncripple himself, but he's crippled, and he speaks through the synthesizer or whatever, the computer. And he did a program that's aired on some of these Discovery channels and stuff, and his analysis, is there a God? And it was all chemical to him. The world, the planets, the initial Bang Theory, everything was mathematics. He's a mathematician, very intellectual. But he lost God. And that's the problem. So it's important to realize and keep yourself flexible in that way, and realize that there's so much to you besides a physical brain and physical endocrine glands. They reach in. Your physical brain is only a channel for the mind to get to this world. The mind is not physical. The emotions are not physical expressions. They're not nerve synapses intermixing with each other and things like this. These are pathways physically for communication of the 5 senses. But these are also the doorways to the inner worlds of mind and thought and time tracks, matter, energy, space, and time syndromes, emotions, and how all these play in the world of creation. So always work with, because this goes on, and this is sad because it's 24-year-old young men. I have had 2 episodes of madness or ego death. The second time, I held much more awareness, which resulted in it being a spiritual opening. And and this is what I'm saying. When you're 24 years old, to me, you're probably a major spiritual being coming in here. And this young lad was able to use that for his spiritual awakening. And I thought that's exactly the point, and probably why you went through that, is to get to the awakened state. But with that said, you want to really get into an individual's endocrine glands. You make your adrenals healthy. You make your thyroid, parathyroid. You make your pituitary. Tishratils, the pineal. You want to clean the brain so your energy is coming straight down through the crown. All these things is how you bring that etheric and God force through you. And also how you relate to the functionability of the body, how the mind relates, and the emotions relate. What's interesting about your observation, which I really appreciate this communication, Daniel, because you took that experience and made it a spiritual awakening. And I'll say this, the ego death. That is when you awaken as the ego death. Because I've said this to you before, is when you start getting raw and you start detoxifying, first it's a health thing. Then it becomes more of a spiritual thing. And along this journey of how the masters used to take the chelas, or the students, there was the ego death. And in class, in our level 1 discourse, we talk about this. And we talk about the etheric world and the death of that world, or the ability of your removal of your attention at that level. And that's the ego. That's the self. That's what Carl Jung's wife called the id. That is the individualization of the awe, where time starts to begin. The first time there's a manifestation of individualism, that you can separate yourself from another, even though there's still a oneness within that expression They're still the self. That can be accentuated to where you see narcissism going like crazy. These are uncontrolled minds out there that think they're in control. So this person was so spiritual within the self that they were able to take that experience and move beyond that. From that point, you're totally in the now. There is no you anymore. It's not the same drive force as pure consciousness, which is pure awareness. And you have to be ready for that state. Because in it, the same rules don't apply as in creation. So this was a good experience for Daniel here, an incredible experience, I might add. With that said, the first part of this, the psychosis and things, this is the thing, is you've got all these spiritual beings here, these elevated spiritual beings here to help this planet, coming into these sick bodies. And so it's our job to prepare these bodies for these higher beings to help the awareness elevate at this level. And it's just interesting if you watch this, how you see this happening, because in spirituality you talk about the indigo children, the children of the light, and stuff like this. You have all this that's out there. The enlightened ones coming to the planet helping, or souls that are in advanced stages of journeys. And some are. I've talked to beings that never were here, and beings that, of course, are tired of being here. Both ways. So it's an interesting state to be in, Daniel. I have to say, because on one side you have to keep it going into the now. And I've told you guys that at one point you got to lose yourself to find yourself. The riddle, the divine riddle that has the answer of all life in it. Losing the self is losing the ego, the little self. But when you let that little self go, you become the big self. Still, the alone state is even more accentuated because that alone exists. So Daniel, keep yourself in balance. Go after your endocrine glands. You know you got adrenals at your age. And just keep working on this. But this ego death is at the highest level you can get out of in the material worlds. That's the highest level that you can achieve, is letting go with that. The Radha Swami calls the next step the Satnam region. And that's where Paul Twitchell recognized. A lot of levels above that. But those are the levels of beingness, the levels of pure consciousness. It becomes more of the all, put it that way. You can only go so far there and still maintain your body here, guaranteed. But the Singh group, the Radhaswami, the Yoga of Light and Sound, they call it, been around a long, long time, and they teach that plane above the etheric, the ego plane. And that's what you experience there, which is incredible. To what degree can an all-fruit diet with an herbal protocol help to heal a person from having these extreme states of consciousness? Well, here's the thing. Balance. Now, here's something you guys are probably not going to like this side of this. So forgive me for having to bring this out, because I'm bringing this up to Yaz and some others that are getting into these higher states. It becomes now not an all raw thing. And I don't want you guys that are all raw to take this the wrong way, because keep going all raw. But when you're growing at that level, the power and energy is so intense that you got to find balance. Balance for me was cooked food, because it actually took my energy out, which shows you why cooked foods is not good for healing, but real good for a state of balance. And when you get that level and you have too much energy, sometimes you have to forget about meditation for a while. Try to be in the now. Try to work from the state of observation. Don't try to go deeper. You're here. You're in the now. So keep yourself in that now and just try to get away from thought. At the same time, keep yourself balanced. If you have to eat some cooked food, you have to eat some cooked food. The problem with that is some of you are going to grow spiritually faster than your body's going to heal. And I thought about this. How are we going to deal with this? So I don't know. I just have to say that you guys are real special people. And you are beings of incredible stature. And we're going to have to find a way to get you to Wellville physically, emotionally, and mentally. At the same time, keep consciousness open and a sense of balance. So Daniel, this is a much important questions than you probably realize. And I was trying to put this off from the YouTube for a while because I needed to develop a certain sense of coming in the back door, I call it, and getting people to the physical state of wellness. From then on, they can make their own choices. But so many of you are opening so fast here that it's amazing. And I just have to say, keep your balance. And this keeps coming over and over with me to tell you guys to do that because I'm a product of that. And I can speak from this side of it. I couldn't maintain a lifetime of raw foods. Not in my spirituality at the same time, too. I was young and couldn't do it, couldn't stand the energy of it. And I talked about this before. It's insane. Or you go off. And going off isn't good for you or anyone else because you have to pay for that. You got to keep yourself in consciousness. Yet run these finite bodies. It's a trip. It's a trip. No question. So for those that don't get with what I'm saying, don't take this, go on, keep doing raw, keep hitting this raw, keep detoxifying, keep digging in. This message is just for those that are opening so fast in their awareness that they have to seek some balance to keep themselves stabilized. We hang on to things as crutches to stabilize ourselves. Sometimes we eat to get rid of our energy, because we can't handle higher levels of energy. That's why it's so important to get your glands healthy, to get your body healthy, because as you go in a rhythmic manner, then you'll be stabilized through this process. It's just there's some that are not doing that rhythmatic manner that are opening faster. And there's a different set of rules here for that. And it's happening faster than what I thought. That's what you get for thinking. My understanding from your videos is that this condition is caused by a degeneration of the adrenals. No, not necessarily. I will say that the adrenals play a big role in part of this issue. But what's interesting is your weaknesses is sometimes your spirituality. Here's an example. Those that have weak adrenals, if you look at most musicians, they have weak adrenals. But it makes them creative. Because you're either intellectual or you're emotional. And Paul Twitchell talked about each one of these sides. And it's so true. There's a different set of rules than an intellectual person. They see life differently. They relate differently. Emotional people are your down-to-earth, loving people, good hearts, all of this sort of thing. The intellectual tends to run a little bit closer to the id or the ego. So you just have to watch that. Years ago I worked for the telephone company, putting in telephones. Had to do something to make a living. And I'd be working out here on the islands where the real wealthy are. And those tend to be more intellectuals, although I knew a lot of wealthier, heart people. More musicians than anything. But always the poor when I'm working late on their phone systems and stuff and it's dark out, they say, come put up a chair, have a seat. You want supper? You want something to drink? Never was I offered that in the wealthier families. And I said to myself, no matter what level of economics I'm at, I'll never act that way. Because it's just you lose your love and your joy. So those of you with weak adrenals, appreciate that side of that and then get them healthy. And that's what you need to do, Daniel, is get your endocrine glands healthy. Go take the endocrine gland formula, gland tonics, get yourself healthy, get your kidneys filtering, do that whole thing of moving lymph and acidosis out. But at the same time, stabilize yourself, but don't stop becoming more in the now. Become the observer of life instead of the thinker. And get firm in the observer, because that's all you need. You don't need to bring in more energy right now because you unbalance yourself. But at the same time, that is the highest energy at a certain point that you can get to is in the now, because that's where it all is. So, difficult place to be in sometimes. What success have you had with people experiencing schizophrenia or bipolar? Lots. But remember, both of those are related to thyroid, parathyroid, and adrenals. Make sure the pituitary is controlling all those adequately. But getting the endocrine glands will bring that schizophrenia, bring that bipolar in balance. Because as you're growing spiritually, you can get yourself way out of balance with these issues. So you bring up some excellent questions here, because there's a lot of people suffering from that with so much thyroid and parathyroid and adrenal weakness out there. You just see so much of the struggle of schizophrenia and bipolar. And it's sad to see that. It's all karma, but still, that's the sort of thing that's out there, and you can make a big inroad in this. At the same time, don't lose that spiritual awakening, because there's that you behind all of that. And don't identify with schizophrenia or bipolar. It isn't you, it's your bodies. Don't identify with your bodies and their conditions and their weaknesses. Now, these are bodies that have weaknesses, and you can make them strong. Keep pulling yourself away from your bodies to where nothing, in the now, nothing can bother you. Nothing can attach itself. You are in that eternal now. And that's all of the all. And so if you can get here and stay here, then everything's outside of you. And yes, you have and the mind is outside of you, so you won't be pulled into these areas of bouncing back and forth from depression to anxieties and things like this. You'll see them coming, but you'll be able to keep yourself apart from that. And you do your very best at that. Currently, I am under the care of a psychiatrist, and unfortunately, under this medical model, I am considered to have a mental illness and need medication for the rest of my life. This model does not allow for any healing. Well, you've changed the model. And you have to grab a hold of your own world. And you wouldn't be asking me these questions or watching this if you couldn't. You can do that. Work on your endocrine glands. Do your best if you need to take something to stabilize. But, most of these antidepressants and antipsychotics are nasty beasts. So you would definitely love the brain and nervous system number 2 would be great. Flower essences. Use the, what's the one I use all the time here? Any flower essence will do, box emergency relief, but I just love these Running Fox Farms. Moonshine Yarrow is great for all of this. And keep some flower essences. It'll do you much better than antipsychotics. Work on the parathyroid or pituitary. See that link. Look at your eyes. Get your parathyroid and thyroid up. It'll remove you from depression. Get your adrenals up. It'll remove you from anxieties and emotional separateness. At the same time, keep your spirituality in that balance. It's a tall order, no question about that. Currently, what would you do if you were in my situation? Please and thank you. Absolutely, from your fan and new soul. I don't think you're a new soul, Daniel. I think you're an old soul, my friend. You see this one about, it was on Fox 4, where a Manhattan dad is not a loving dad anymore. I guess that I guess I showed you this before. He didn't want to feed his son McDonald's, so the state child services said you're unfit because you didn't feed your son. He gave his son an option to eat at a healthier restaurant or go to bed without eating. The son took the option of going to bed without eating, and child services felt he was an unfit dad. What the hell are we coming to in America? We don't get a hold of ourselves in America. America's going to hell fast. Ridiculous. Child services needs a big slap on the hand. So, karma's karma, guys. This thing's going to swap back in their face one of these days, but sad stuff. Sad stuff. This dad is trying to get his son healthier, and look at that. If you don't eat McDonald's, you're an unfit dad. Well, that's disturbing. Real disturbing. Miss Freeman. Hello, I hope all is well in the wonderful world of healing. Listen to this. This lady's... when I was 19, I had rotator cuff surgery, and they put a permanent screw in my shoulder. Hardly seemed necessary since muscles heal so fast, but all the doctors assured me that the metal was safe and non-toxic. Yeah, I love that, don't you? The assurances from medical doctors. Don't take offense, medical doctors, but my God, your brother and before you have not necessarily laid a good pathway for you good medical doctors. Afterwards, that's what I'm worried about in the naturopathic world when I hear all these naturopaths recommending high protein meat, first of all, dead tissue, first of all. You know, you don't recommend dead tissue to anybody. And then, and then all these supplements and all this ridiculous waste of time and a diet that'll never pull anybody out of Hellville. I don't want to be associated with that. That's why I say forget naturopathy, become an herbalist, a raw food herbalist. Afterwards, my shoulders seem to break out constantly, and it seems like my acne on my face has gotten worse. Well, let's go back to why maybe you broke your rotator cuff. And it might be that that was a weakness you had all along from not moving lymph. And that was removing some calcium out of tissue to fight that acidosis. And there was a weakness in that. Relate that to maybe a parathyroid weakness on that site as well. And that would have set you up for that because all the other stuff that you're seeing is lymphatic in origin. If, in fact, this screw is an acid screw, then it would deteriorate your bone. No question about it. Because I don't care what metal it is. If it's an acid metal, deterioration is a side effect. Your body will constantly leach calcium to fight it. But in the long run, you'll lose your bone. As well as spread down my neck and back over the years. And it's just showing you, Addie, that your lymph system, your kidneys are not filtering well. And you need to get those kidneys filtering. It'll pull all that acid out of there, all that lymph out of there. If there's still a weakness, it'll heal. In some cases, the body will spit that screw right out. And if you get way up there in alkalinity, the chances of your body actually removing this, even out of bone, will do that. Seen that. Where it just pulls the screw right out of the bone and spits it right out the skin. I mean, your body is unbelievable. And it doesn't want these acids in it. But when everything's coming to it as acidic, it's acidic. It loses its ability to eliminate its waste. It has little choice but to move into survival mode. The cholesterols, the calcium, the edemas. And so you end up in these situations like this. She's now 26, and I was wondering if that screw will ever just work its way out or dissolve, or something like that. If it's an acid screw, if it's base, like titanium, it'll be in there and you won't have to worry about it. But I don't think that all this you're experiencing is from the screw. I think this is all related more back to the lymph system and maybe what weakened that rotator cuff to begin with. Because sometimes even though we have trauma, there's a weakness where that trauma is. And that's why we end up having more of a traumatic experience when we have that trauma. Things should heal from trauma. If you're in an alkaline state, your kidneys are filtering, any trauma to tissue will repair and heal itself. When you don't, it's always the lymph system, and acids from trauma isn't being removed out of that area. So you're just seeing the reflex now, because going back to Tiger here, it's a systemic problem here. The lymph is a systemic fluid, and you're starting to see it down your back, down the pathway of the lymph nodes. And so you're starting to see that pathway and just going to your kidneys there, honey. I am not a fan of this screw, but even if I could find a willing doctor, I really would rather not have... Yeah, I would forget the screw. I'd forget the screw and work on my lymphatic system and don't even worry about that because that's putting energy to that screw. You don't want to give it energy. You just want the body to deal with it the way it's going to deal with it. Get my lymph system cleaned out, get my lymph nodes clean, get myself filtering. You'll be in good shape. Trust me, you will. I say if someone says that, don't trust them. You ever hear that? I really would rather not have another surgery, and I wouldn't. It wouldn't be worth the propofol, the neurotoxins. It wouldn't be worth it. Also, I was wondering if you had any recommendations for topical treatment for aches, acne, scars, or stretch marks. Yeah, you can do the coconut oils and stuff like this, and the vitamin E's and stuff like this, but to tell you the truth, get high up in alkalinity and your body will eat up scars and scar tissues and stretch marks and stuff like that. Absolutely. The fact that you have them shows how acidic you are, to tell you the truth. The bigger the scar, the more acidosis that you're involved in. This is how your body tries to support itself, is scarring. Even though it's not what we like, and adhesions is another problem from surgeries. And this is all the body trying to support itself and survive in a highly acidic medium. So it just goes to your acidosis, and acne the same way. So you really want, you can use the coconut creams and the vitamin E's and stuff, but really got to get into that tissue, get it cleaned up, get your parathyroid working, because I've told you before, you can have a real wrinkled face, but you better make sure those wrinkles all go away. I don't care if you're 100 years old, because if you're not fixing your parathyroid, you're not removing acidosis, therefore you're continually dehydrating, losing connective tissue tone and everything else. And you can be 100 and lose your wrinkles. I don't care. I've done that since the 70s. I'm confident they will eventually go away on a raw diet. You're right on. But if there's anything I can do to go, I just use the herbs and deal with that. And I would forget about the screw, really, because you don't need to give it undue attention. Thanks for sharing. Oh, thank you so much. Love you too, dear. Thank you, Addie. You know, I have an appointment coming in, and I've got to go. Let me see. Yeah, I got to go. Dang on it. But it's always heartwarming. It's always a pleasure. Someday I hope to be caught up here. I hate to wait so long and get all these, to your questions, but it's just the way life is. So have fun out there and keep going, guys. No matter what you come up against, it's not easy to get out of this level. It's hard to get here and hard to get out sometimes. Yet on the other side, keep it simple, and your journey will be great. And for those healers out there, you got all my love. You Facebook people, all you beautiful souls out there that's working with us and working with others. And it's just that I think it's time that we become a one force. And it's essential as you see what we're dealing with here. And just like this homeopathic physician today, we need to work together all around the world to help it. In every country that will allow us to work with its people, we need to help it. And so my love goes out to every one of you. I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye-bye.